Hi, everybody. I am here with a very special guest, Mr. Robert Morgan. He is a author and then also a Bigfoot enthusiast. Mr. Morgan, thank you first of all for having the interview with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
You actually are the author of the very first Bigfoot book that I picked up and started getting into. So I'm actually very happy that you are doing this interview with us. So thank you. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
When did you get started in this hobby?
Well, it was just a matter of seeing something that I couldn't explain, and everyone that I talked to could not explain it until I met with some Native American friends of mine out west, and they laid it all out. And this is what you saw, and this is what happened, and that clicked it for me. A fellow by the name of Kai Nino Cochise, and he was the grandson of the Apache chief Cochise.
Can you tell me a little bit about your very first encounter of what convinced you that you saw something out there?
Well, let's talk about being right here, where we are, right here. I came down here with a fellow by the name of Dennis Bartow, who was an ex-Marine. Anyway, he was a raider. He was quite well schooled in the arts of survival. And we came down here together just to scope the place out and take a good look. And we had heard the so-called legends of Bigfoot down here. So I wanted to look over the territory. Because the heck with what people say, it's what you see and what you evaluate on your own.
Sure.
Okay. So Dennis come in, he said, I have to apologize to you. He said, I have to bring my young son. He was about 7 years old along. And I thought, well, so the poor little kid, why not? So we came down here, and we were talking about the Bigfoot and the sighting that I had reported earlier, that I'd seen a large, it looked like a large hairy hominid on the other side of this lagoon. So I was describing this to it, and the little boy kept saying, Dad, look what I found, look what I found. And of course, here we are in the middle of a film, and Dad, and he kept brushing the kid off. And he said, no, Dad, look what I found something really special. And we were getting ready to string between two trees. We were going to put up dried fish. This was a test to see what would happen. And the kid kept it up. Well, I knew from an early age what it was like to be ignored as a kid. I couldn't take it. So I went over, and the kid had found the carcass of a pheasant. So we made a fuss over the thing, and he took some feathers and all that. So, okay, now we get on with the interview. And it was over. Came back, and we hung up, I think it was 7 pieces of dried fish in between 2 trees. We went out, we spent the evening someplace else, came back, I think it was a day or day and a half. All the pieces were gone.
About how high up are they hung?
About 5-6 feet up.
Okay.
But underneath each one was stuck a feather. Now, if a wolf or a coyote or something like that had got it, you think they're going to stick a feather down there? And there were 7 up there, and there were 7 feathers. And we thought, now, what the heck is this? And we knew that we didn't go back. So that's when we realized that we had probably been under the observation of a Bigfoot or a family. And because there was evidence of them there. And what they had seen was this little boy had spent a lot of time with a carcass of something they're familiar with. And it seemed important. So they took the food that we had laid out, but gave us the gift of those feathers from that pheasant.
A lot of people have experiences or encounters, but they seem to be afraid to come forward, or afraid that they might be ridiculed or made fun of. What would you advise them if they had an encounter? Would you even advise them to come forward?
Sure, tell the truth. And if you tell the truth and someone, supposedly a friend, makes fun of you, they're not a friend.
Absolutely.
So ice them out.
For newer researchers or people just getting into the hobby, trying to go out and do some research, do you have any suggestions for them? What to keep an eye open for, what to look for, or what just to have a good time looking for Sasquatch?
Well, I published a book on those things, and they're probably still available somewhere.
Real quick, what's the name of the book?
Field Researcher Guide.
That's the yellow one, right?
That's it.
That's the one. That's a good one, by the way.
That's the one, because I laid it out pretty much step by step what you can do. And if you follow that, you're pretty much covering all your bases. But the secret is when you do make a contact, keep your mouth shut. Because other people will come down and they're going to try to make fun of you, or they're going to start planting things in. So don't tell anyone where you're doing your research or where you're putting out what I call gifts.
Absolutely.
Keep it to yourself, because other people, for whatever reason, will do things like that.
Now, we're in Salt Fork State Park, Ohio. Are Bigfoots just in Ohio?
Oh, no.
Where else can we find them, you think?
Oh, my God. All over Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Quebec, Canada, in the upper areas of Gaspé Peninsula. You'd find them there. You find them in Minnesota. You'll find them in North and South Dakota. You'll find them in Idaho. You find them in Washington.
So, literally, they can be anywhere, just about.
Take a look at the forested areas and try to look at it this way. If you were a well-trained ranger in the Army, but you had access to food that you could eat, and you had the proper food, clothing, could you survive? Well, hell yes. The average city people are so easy because when they're driving down the road, they're not looking for Bigfoot or anything like that. They're looking to stay alive. And farmers, they're too busy with their crops.
When we were talking about skeptics, I know that sometimes, a lot of the times, you say, just forget them, because if you know what you know, you saw what you saw. That's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Now, people that might have had an encounter and that are trying to come forward, or even getting into a conversation with a skeptic, per se, in your opinion, what would be some ammunition, per se, to dispute that something is out there?
Well, first of all, if you never want to try to convince someone who's closed-minded. It's not worth your breath, your heartbeats, or your time. Forget it. You know what you've seen. You know you don't have to share those things, except if someone, if they ask you and you tell them and they show interest, of course you tell them. You share with them. But every time you do, you're laying yourself open to someone who will tell it to someone else, and they'll go out and sandbag you with a bunch of junk. Keep it to yourself.
For us, where can we find your book or even more of your research?
Well, I haven't published recently on purpose, but if all you have to do is go online and you find it.
Type in your name, huh?
Yeah, type in the name Robert W. Author, and it'll pop up. And the publisher, in fact, the editor's here now. And we had a brief chat. Whether or not we're going to go on and expand it, we'll wait and see.
Well, there you have it, everybody. The infamous Mr. Robert Morgan here at the 2017 Ohio Bigfoot Conference. Again, thank you, sir. I appreciate the interview. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and you guys are lucky to have a guy like this to watch.
Thank you.